Alrighty, hey guys, I am going to do another Golf Clash video for you. This time I am going to focus on Tour 8. It is going to be another advanced wind guide. So I am going to set up my bag now. Now this is the one instance where I think that Thor's hammer, there's so many holes in this tour in my opinion, where you can really have beneficial using more curl than Thor's hammer. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to Apocalypse 7. But for the most part, I'm probably going to stick with, enough spin that it would be like a Apoc 5 to make it as close as possible to a Apoc 5. If I just take off some topspin, don't ever use more than 4 backspin. And the only other thing I have no control over is accuracy. But I think accuracy-wise, it's only 9 different. I believe Apocalypse 5 is 75, about 1.5 per ring. I'm actually smaller than that, right around 1.3 per ring. So I am going to go with that. This is the one tour that I think, Guardian is probably the best club for the job. Now, when you look at my Guardian 8 here, it's at 90 accuracy, which is 1.1 per ring on the short end. An extension on that that I'd like to expand on is, for this tour, I would rather have either Saturn or Tsunami in my bag. In my opinion, really doesn't matter. It usually doesn't come down to, Shootout. In terms of accuracy, my Saturn is right on about the same. Actually, let me just put this on real quick. You can see accuracy-wise, they're about dead center. The only thing that I'm really getting is the ball guide, which I really don't feel like I need for the most part. So, having that extra top spin in case I needed it, or now the top spin would be more useful for like a rough spin, like a spin out of a rough, but not too terribly pertinent for this tour here. So since a lot of you guys really don't have the luxury of Tsunami, I am going to, for this video, stick with Saturn here. Now, this is the one tour that I really do like. The pot, there's a couple tight par 4s on this course that I really think the extra backspin can be a factor. So either Thorn or Claw, whichever one you like. And again, when I'm looking at accuracy versus ball guide, I'd rather have the accuracy in this case, because at 75, it is 1.5 per ring. And with Thorn being at 57, it's a really random number. It's like 1.82 or something, or 1.87 or something per ring. It's like a really weird number. 1.87, I think, is roughly what it's about. And that's just kind of a weird number to be calculated in your head. So I try to stick with Claw. And I am going to switch to Claw for this. And aside from that, this bag should be good to go. Now, let's try to jump in Tour 8 and get a couple matches. Now, I already know that I'm going to have to do this tour with a bunch of replays. It's what to be expected. What's nice about me having to do the, play against these replays is it might give you, a couple, maybe like two really good shots to go off of versus one on the shootout. So you might want to, take a look at what they're doing on a couple of their shots, the ones that they hit really well. And, you could kind of utilize their spin, or you could do it the way that I am. And I'm assuming it's going to be pretty, spot on. There'll be good shots either way. Now, one of the things that I think I have an advantage over is especially with Guardian, I feel like for the most part, you know, the replays are going to loosen up a little bit on this tour. It's not going to be like, so it seemed like if you watch my Tour 11, Tour 10 guide, you know, a lot of the shots were in there pretty tight. I don't think that's going to be the case on this. These tiebreaker holes are much more challenging. So there's going to be far fewer shots in the 1 to 2, and it's going to be more like a 3 to 4, I feel, which is going to open it up for me to do a little bit better. So you're seeing here the wind's a little bit weaker. Now I do recommend, you know, a 3 power ball here when it's into the face. You kind of see how I'm putting my spin on. I'm going to play about 3 rings or so, which is over here. I'll do this with some curl, but you know, you kind of want to focus on being somewhat close in the bullseye here, and there I got it. And as you saw, I only used like a Poc 5 spin, just so you could kind of see where you'd be expecting to be on a wind like that. You'd hit it out similarly. I want to make this video a little bit more useful, so if I would have used my Poc 7, I would have got almost up on the fringe. I'd probably make the pitch. You know, that's how I basically, you know, would be able to easily get trophies back. Would just be able to just tear apart this Tour 8 course. It wouldn't be much of a... The hardest thing about this course is the new holes that they added. It was the ones for the spooky cliff holes. It was all those brand new ones that they put on. And now that you don't see any of the, you know, haunted theme, it's those holes. So the new ones that they created for that tournament are kind of what we're looking at here. And I wanted to mention to you guys that one of the things I like to do here is I like to land above this hot, and you're seeing this is where my 100% is right here. So first I'm going to use that. I'm going to pull a little bit of backspin on it, but not too much. And you see I'm coming back, but not very much. So this might go to like, say, 90% club. So I'm going to put this, you know, I'm not going to get a lot of run out, so I'm going to be very precise with where I'm putting this. So you see I'm putting it right on the hole, and I think, you know, I have a feeling that I'm still going to have to go real close to 8 rings here. So there's 5. There's about 7. Let's see if I can't get this off real quick. And there you're seeing it. Straight in, right off the pin. Now, the reason that I went a little bit more backspin is what you're used to seeing me do is because I like making sure that I'm over that mound. And I want to reiterate that point for you guys too. That you want, I feel like that's the best approach for you guys to play that hole there to be able to get that pitch. Is landing it on the flat and then playing the rings. And you saw I played probably pretty close to a 7, in between 7 and 8 rings there, somewhere in that neighborhood. I felt like it was probably, you know, 85% max distance. So somewhere in that range, I feel like, you know, it's going to play right on about 1 per ring, or maybe, you know, just a little bit under that, to where it might be, you know, 1.1, somewhere in that. It's not quite at max. I don't know if I told you this, but at max distance on my Embringer, I've been starting to play it right around 0.8. It seems to be pretty spot on at 0.8. So since I was moving in from that, I was playing it more 1.0. And so for this one, anytime that you have the wind, you want to kind of take advantage of that. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting a Titan on so it goes more downwind. And again, I'll do probably, you know, 4 rings, since it's like a 5 wind, but it's pointed kind of off center a little bit. So I'll do this with like a 4 ring adjustment. Again, I was able to get my perfect ball. Should land very good right in the middle of that fairway there. It should have enough momentum. Didn't quite get the good bounce out of that rough, but it should be good enough to give this one a go here. So I highly recommend, using the balls that are really gonna, be beneficial to you. If I have a feeling that a ball is potentially going to give me one stroke lower, like on both of these holes, you're seeing I'm pulling out my good balls. I pulled out the Kingmaker to basically make sure that the wind wasn't too restricting and I could still get it to pitch range where I could still make that. And then same with this. I wanted to make sure that I was in the fairway. I was hoping that it would have rolled out a little bit more than this, but nevertheless, still, I feel like I'm giving myself a chance. This is a nice mid-distance, which is about 2.25 per ring. It's a little bit more into the wind here, so you have to worry about, it checking up. So again, I'll put it very close to the hole here, and then I'll play, my two rings that I was just mentioning. I'll play it about 2, which is going to be right on 4 rings here. I'll push it up, just straight up, and I might just do it with just a touch, ever so slightly. I don't like plain curl, so I'll just move it just to the right of center, just barely. I won't move it very much. And sure enough, there you have it. Another eagle for you guys. This tour can be, a very doable tour that you can take advantage of. There's quite a few pitches that you can get on this hole. That you can take advantage of for this course. And the one thing that I wanted to mention there is, it's 8 in the face there, so you really have to worry about it checking up in terms of, me stopping short on that pitch with 2 rings. So I was very careful to put the third hop very, very close to the hole because I knew that the shot was going to, correct itself a little bit. Kind of what I was mentioning in those later tours is it's going to start to check up a lot faster, like probably, maybe a yard faster than it usually would. So I needed to keep that in mind. And like I said, the method that I use on short irons and wedges is I don't really play curl, but you saw me just ever so slightly just cheat it just to the edge because I knew that it would get shot corrected a little bit. But I also want to make sure that I still put my 100% power, not 98% power. I want to make sure that I'm still in 100% power. So I'm very careful with not curling those because I want to be very precise with the way that I, play that wind. And make sure that I'm not taking off power, adding power, none. So that's why you'll see me do overcorrections. So, for example, like I said, that might be like a 2.25 per ring, but I played it more towards 2 to make myself go more rings. So I ended up going 4 full rings when it was probably 3.5. What that does is it's an overcorrection, so it accounts for, it takes into consideration that extra that you might need. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the navigator. You don't need a lot of power here, but I like having the wind resistance. It gives me a nice chance, and what I like to do here, you can see my ball trail. I like keeping it right around there. So you're going to see me, what did I do? I put 2 power on, or two top spin. I'm going to play about a 2 ring adjustment here, and I'm really not going to do much. I'm going to try to counter it a little bit. No real power. I'm just trying to thread it up through here. Hopefully not get it in the rough. And keep it short. Now why do I keep it short intentionally on this hole? Because it gives me a straight path towards the hole. And I think that's what you guys want. That's what you're looking for in this hole. This is giving me a 3rd straight chance to make 3 straight pitches. To just win these holes outright against replays. So it's something to keep in mind. Highly recommend, kind of being very strategic with where you're putting the ball in this tour. Because like I said before, this tour is very doable. Very doable. This was one of my favorites. So I don't know if I told you guys this, but I had just recently built these trophies back up. I was down around 1,500 on Saturday, and by Monday I was at like 4,500. So now you see I'm more towards mid distance, a little bit over mid this time. So maybe, playing at 2, right on 2. And again, I like to do about 2 bars of backspin on this hole as well. Very similar to what I did on that last one. So I'll do it right here. I'll try to make this my landing zone. And same type of thing here, right around 4, maybe just a tad over 4. And again, I might just ever so slightly just cheat it back, because I know that there's going to be some shot correction, but I don't want to get carried away with that, because I still want to give myself a good chance to make it. And there you have it. I was able to pop that one up in the cup too. So this is giving you, an idea of kind of what you want. And you see, I'm not really doing much with my shot correction, but I'm just doing it ever so slightly. What I prefer is like more of an overcorrection, which is what I typically do. But it also depends. You saw I was about to change surfaces there. So what I wanted to avoid was hitting it on that fringe. I wanted to make sure I still hit that fairway, so that's why I did the shot correction, which was just a little bit, ever so slightly to the left there. So the reason that I went ever so slightly to the left with my curl was because I wanted to make sure, since I was about to change, I would have ended up changing surfaces if I would have went any farther with my shot arrow. If I would have pulled it up to say 4.5 rings, for example, which is like the equivalent of an overcorrection, I might have changed surfaces. And one of the things that you have to consider when you're changing surfaces like that is the fact that the ball trail might completely change. Just because it lands one way on one surface, sometimes when you change surfaces, it's a completely different ball trajectory. It doesn't even go on the same plane. Like it'll completely like the way that it responds to the actual surface is completely different. So that's something you want to keep in mind. It doesn't always work like that, but there are certain times that it does. So to avoid any confusion, if you're on a surface and you want to use that surface, make sure that you land it on that surface. Now that's only when you get close to the green, fringe, and the edge of the fairway. If you want to play the shot on it doesn't matter which one you want to play. I don't care which one you want to pick it on, because I play all 3 surfaces. So I'll basically set mine up the best way that I think it's going to go in. So what I'll do is wherever, like for example there, my 2 rings, that's what I wanted to use for backspin. I wanted to use the 2 bars of backspin. So for that hole right there, that's what I did. I put it at 2, 2.5. And you saw it was pretty spot on. Again, I'm going to go into maybe Kingsmaker here. We'll say it's a little too much power. We're just going to stick with the Navigator here. Again, I'm going to use kind of my a pot 5s. Now, I am going to do a hook shot here. That's what I like to do on this hole. So, bear with me here real quick. It's about a 2.5 ring adjustment. And I just like to get it this way so it doesn't bring the rough into question, nothing like that. Now there's 2 ways to go about this hole. You can go up and go long, and you can use the slope with a long iron. And then sometimes when I get it close enough, I'll just go, pitch like with like my claw front, like in the front door here, and I'll do it with the claw. But I might not have got it close enough on this drive because of the way the wind was pointed. So when the wind's in the face like that, it really slows your ball down on the fairway. So you don't get it down there as long. Even if you land it on the same point in the fairway, you might lose 10 yards on your drive. So you're seeing, I did get it to claw, but look how much spin I have here. So, this kind of sets up, it's not too terrible. It's also not that good either. So, I'm right towards max claw here. Max claw is 1.5 per ring. So again, I'm going to go at this with an overcorrection. So if I'm playing 1.5 per ring, that's going to be a 7-ring adjustment, 5, 7, but I'm going to go 8 here, for example, because I need an overcorrection. And the reason for that is because of the extra correction post, and again, that's too much there. It might not have been a full 1.5. I might have been not quite right at max, but since it was down to a lower elevation, I did go a little bit extra. I wanted to make sure that I used that 1.5 number, even though it wasn't quite there. It was probably more like 1.6 or 7, because I wasn't quite at max club. So you saw me overcorrect there. Again, but I have to overcorrect in terms of, like, if I'm not going to factor in the fact that I need to curl it back, I have to overcorrect. Now, the only thing I did wrong there was the numbers I was using weren't right. It wasn't 1.5 per. It was probably, 90%, which is, 1.65. So 1.65, it probably takes off a ring. If I would have, took off a ring there, it would have been more spot on. Still looked like it, even one ring there wasn't quite right. But more so than anything, it looks like it was coming in a bit hot too. So that's also something that my shot would have been a little bit better had it been coming in a little slower. So maybe it was the angle that I was pulling back. I might have been pulling too much forward, that it just was like springboard, and plus it was downwind, so that's something you got to keep in mind. And this is one of the most epic holes to have Guardian in your bag for. You're seeing the way that the wind's pointed too, making it even better. So you can hit the rough like this guy's trying to do right here. But I severely have this guy outmatched with Guardian over Sniper here. Severely. You can still pull this off, and I'm assuming probably in replay, it's going to be a probably pretty decent shot, as it is. But, more times than not, I should be able to, easily take care of this guy with Guardian. Especially, and that's one of the biggest reasons to use, your so first you want to make sure that you have full backspin, and I'm gonna have to cheat this fairway pretty good here, and you can see right here I'm gonna have to be pretty precise with my movements here. And I think it's like 1.4 that I'd like to play, and at 5 rings that's 7, so I need to go 6 rings from this spot at least. It's downwind too, so you gotta worry about that extra shot correction and all that. You gotta be real careful here. And I like to do this with curl. Get it really having momentum going towards the hole. And this is probably the hardest wind for the Guardian to beat this guy. And as you see, that's still launched. So it takes me a second or two to, get back into the groove of things here. 6 rings wasn't enough. So, I'll know that for next time. I was trying to go off of memory, and it looks like, that number was not very good for my correction. So, but I know for next time, that's one of the best things about making a mistake. You just went 6 rings this time, right? So let's say I was grinding this tour. And you just saw I just completely blew the landing zone probably by 3 yards at least. It means I could have pulled back another 2 rings and it would have been safe. So for that 8.4, I could have pulled back 8 rings. I would have been okay. But I didn't know that going into the shot. like I couldn't remember that it plays that much downhill on that hole. I haven't played this tour too recently. Because when I was just playing this recently, but I didn't get to a lot of shootouts. And even when I did, it wasn't necessarily that hole. I think that's only one of like 6 shootouts on this tour right now. There's all the Spooky Cliff ones, and then plus the Sakura Hills. I think there's 6 possibilities, and I might have only got that a couple times. And the way where I just got it was the hardest wind for Guardian you could get it. You couldn't have got it any harder than that. It's the only wind that's hard for me to play, because it's hard to stop the ball. You have to cheat that fairway the most. I had to be a lot better with my landing zone, and I wanted to play it safe, so I was playing it to mid club on my Guardian. Because once you pull back to mid club, that's kind of where the shot was lining up, which was pretty close to mid club. So that's why you saw me going back to there. And let's see, I am going to do Navigator right there. I'm kind of perfectly on a Pock 5 spin. I'm going to add just a touch of power on top of that. Just try to get it out there towards that guy's ball, not be too far behind it. But keeping in mind, 99% of the... So this is the one hole where I'd really like to have sniper. But looking at this hole, this tour in general, with the shootout hole we just played, I'm going to win 80-90% of my shootouts. I'll win 8 out of 10 on that hole. On that one we just played. Because so many guys playing sniper. And, of course, we get the only win where, sniper has a realistic fighting chance against me being able to get it closer. So, it was just a little unfortunate. I still could have beat the guy's shot, just didn't do it. Just didn't execute. But next time through, like I said, now that I know that I can, it plays downhill or whatever, and I can basically play, the normal 1.1 per ring. Now that I know that, next time, I'll be good to go. And this is the one reason that I would like to be able to, I can get sniper on the green here. Even with that wind, I could be on the green. So, I'm going to basically forfeit that right by having Guardian, which isn't necessarily the end of the world. Just because I can't get it on the green doesn't mean I'm going to not eagle. So that's kind of like a misconception here. So let's first, use the backspin. I like to do it with backspin as opposed to, guessing where it's going to roll out to. When you use the full backspin like that on a stop shot, you can basically see where the third last bounce is. It's not going to go any farther than that. So once you see that third bounce, you use the backspin. It basically just says, oh, well, this is my landing zone. You can get very aggressive with the play that way, which is what I like about it. It's one of those kind of nice things. And I always love being on this other side. Pitching like this is what I like, because I can make these a large amount of the time. I can make these. So it's nice hitting it to this side. I'd rather be closer to the hole than have to pitch it farther like I am. Like I'll choose that. I'll choose where he was all day over where I am. I think I'll make more shots. I felt like where he was, I'm probably in the 6 to 10 range, and where I am, I'm kind of in like the 4 out of 10 range. It just depends on the wind more than anything. I do know where this usually plays, but I forget. And it looks like it's right about mid-club, which is, again, like that 2.0 adjustment that I like to mention before. Right around 2 per, give or take. And, again, you want to make sure that you're not going to stop it too short. So I'm going to be very aggressive with that. Make sure I don't keep it short. You know, right around 4 rings here. Let's see if I can't pop this up in there. Looks like I got it, but barely. It's almost an undercorrection. So, like I said, you know, this is the one hole that I would like to have sniper for. But all things considered, if I can pitch it in from the fairway, do I need to be on the green putting? No. Technically, no. So, oh, whoops. I just tried to play. I don't know what I was thinking there. But keep that in mind. We're not getting them any shootout here. That's a little unfortunate. I feel like more so than anything, the shootouts are going to help you guys. But so this is like a trade-off because I want to show you how to make these shots too, because this is an important part to getting through these tours, especially 8, 10. You know, 8 and 10 are just huge tours for me. Sometimes 7, because you can basically bypass shootouts with these tours. Especially this tour, especially 7. So 7 and 8, those can be kind of your 2 gravy tours to basically avoid shootouts. And that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing me avoid a lot of shootouts. What I like to do here is a little bit more aggressive approach. I like to cut this corner. I'm not sure if I quite have enough wind to do this or not. It doesn't look like I do. That's unfortunate. So I guess we'll just lay up, because there ain't no sense of putting it somewhere you guys might not be able to. So, you know, 5 ring adjustment here, just a little bit of counter. Just trying to get it somewhere out here in the center of the fairway. You don't need to get every last yard out of this sucker. So that's one of the things that I see a lot of guys do, is they'll try to, you know, kill it down there. There's no point. You don't need to be to the end of that fairway there. Just keep it short where I just did. You can get a little bit more aggressive, but with me not being too familiar with these holes, you're going to see me, for the most part, be a little bit conservative until I know. Like, it's just like that par 3 that you saw me do the shootout on. I was being just a little cautious on it because I didn't want to hit the rough and completely, you know, blow the shot. So just being a little cautious on it until I know, you know, I can go kind of full throttle. And same thing here. You're seeing me, you know, be a little cautious with how much curl to the left that I used, even though I could have basically curled it entirely and would have been okay. So one of the things here, I don't think you really need spin on this one. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to put on about 3 bars here. You saw me, I already had it lined up. So what I'm going to do here, you see how it's deflected? Basically 3 rings. I'm going to use my ring adjustment from here. I'll go about, you know, 10 some rings here, at least. This one plays downhill. So you're seeing me do about the 10 ring for the 11 wind here. And what I did is I did the, ooh, this is coming in bad. That was way too much of a correction. I should have sized that up. That is not good. That was an overcorrection severely, which means I was probably towards min club there. Let me see if he pulls this one back. There's max club. We should have been very close to one another. For some reason, my correction was very, very wrong. At mid club, I would have been 1.4. Why did that launch so far? It doesn't make any sense. I wonder if where I rotated was just completely wrong. I might have been rotating too much to the right on accident instead of pulling it back, because I don't know why it shot that long. Should have never been over there. But nevertheless, not going to worry about that too much. I'll still get the birdie here. It's just bad for this video. Unfortunately, I put, one bad shot. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have sized it up first, but I have a feeling it has something to do with my pullback, not being at the right angle. So, especially when you're on a small wind like this, first I just want to size it up, see where, max is. Now I'm right at about a quarter, which basically is a 1 ring adjustment. So if I'm only going a ring, I'm staying inside cup here. So I just want to show you that. Staying inside cup for this dunk. I highly recommend doing the dunk here when you're in tight like this. It's just so easy. And especially with the new holes, the way that they have, all these crazy little bumps on the green, just take all that out of the equation. And if I'm at about a quarter distance, if an end bringer usually is 1 per ring, at a quarter of that, it's 4 per ring. And the wind was only 4, so I only need to go 1 ring there. So very easy dunk. Even though if it's, I've never been there in my entire life, I can size it up easily. And you saw me just kind of, pull back the arrow. I pulled it back to a half and then pulled it up back a half point from there. It got to about quarter distance and it was relatively spot on. So I'll take that. And again, this is another hole. I think, distinct advantage. I do think this is shooting to a lower, yes. It's shooting to a lower elevation here. I like to use backspin here. This is another one where I think I can get in there pretty precise. If I use this as my landing zone, so that's what you're going to see me basically do for the most part, is you're just going to see me basically go full backspin. I'm going to go about 4 rings here because it goes to a lower elevation like I just mentioned before. So I'm going to pull here and then I'm going to do the counter because I don't want the shot to get corrected on me too bad. So that's why I'm countering back to the left. It is a little deep, but not terrible. It's within 2 yards. And again, sometimes there's just like a little bit of learning curve. This is my first time hitting it into the green. Now, one of the things that I need to keep in mind, especially when you're shooting to a lower elevation, is you might come in a little bit hot on your adjustment. And it's a little bit easier to remember that second time through, as opposed to, the inaugural event on the hole. So, having played this hole in quite a while, and even when I did, I don't think I had Guardian on. I think I went through this tour with my Hammerhead 7, to be honest with you, because I still had, super high backspin, and there was only a couple, shoot. I feel like there's a trade-off. You can get away with sniper on this tour, but I don't recommend it because I think, holes like this one, I think this is an easy hole with Guardian. It can be an easy hole with sniper. And you're seeing that guy, his came in there kind of perfect. You can play it either one of those approaches. See, I like both. But, my next time through on that hole, And again, this is just one of those things. I'm playing a bunch of replays, so my shots have to be a yard or less. Is basically what it comes down to. When it's on easy holes like that one. That one's one of the easiest on that tour. And I can get it there. Don't get me wrong, but, I got to make that mistake and kind of get my bearings. So once I see where I made that mistake on that shootout, I can correct it next time. So for next time, I'll remember because it's right on my short-term memory. So here we are, we're at 40 minutes. I'm going to keep rolling with this. We haven't got to a lot of shootouts. We have covered a large amount of holes, so I'm happy about that. We're getting through a large variety. A lot of this tour. The only thing we're kind of missing is some of the monster par fives. But for the most part, what's nice about the par fives, so there's the one that the one super long one of the things that I want to just mention, just in case we don't get it, it's the new one. It's this new Sakura. It's that new one that just goes way straight out. And one of the things that I just wanted to mention to you guys, just in case we don't get to play it, is, taking advantage of, if it's downwind, put Titan on. If it's into the wind, put Kingmaker on. And, just try to brute it down there. If you can get the eagle, you can win that a lot of times outright. So, I can't guarantee we're going to get it here. What I like to do as kind of my go-to ball is like a, navigator here. That's what you're seeing me do here. And you saw where that guy went? He went, very aggressive. I don't play this whole aggressive at all. I play it right to where I want it. Right in the middle of the fairway. That's it. Nothing fancy. Just beat it down there. Right in the center. Don't let it get, I don't want it any farther than that. That was as far as I'd ever want it. And actually the angle of the wind is actually going to screw me a bit. So, even a little bit shorter would have been nice there. So, and that's one of the reasons that I keep it short, is to be more right in the middle, to where I can see that nice little thread without having to worry about this rough. Now, granted, you're not going to hit the rough anyway at this level, but it's just nice to have that nice clean look at the hole. I think the slope is kind of designed to be a little bit better when you're not shooting quite at this angle. Like the natural slope of the hole seems to be more, kind of straight up the hill when you keep it short, which is nice. You don't get as many of those weird bounces when you keep it short back here. Now, I went to almost this is as long as I want it. I never want it any longer than this. So again, straight into the wind, I might, not quite put as much backspin on as you see me use. And look, you see that? Look at these two surfaces. This is what I wanted to show you. You need to make sure that you're hitting the right surface. So again, I want to be very careful here. I'm going to start here. You know what? I didn't size this up. I'm going to miss this. I don't have enough time. I think I'm right around mid-club again. So running a little too much out of time there. I ran it a little too tight. I didn't quite adjust enough. I forgot to size it up, and I just realized last second that I didn't know if I was mid-club, which I was pretty spot on mid-club. And the last second I just had to scramble there because I wasn't thinking. I was too busy talking. But that's okay. I've already made this one, so you don't need to see two makes on it. We'll just go to the shootout, and hopefully they give us another hole that we haven't seen yet, so we can talk about that. I know for the Spooky Cliff holes is probably the least amount of exposure from my videos that you guys have. You probably have the limited amount, because some of the other courses, oh geez, this is my least favorite hole in the game. And if there was ever a reason to have Guardian over Sniper, it's this hole. I probably just won this shootout. So you kind of see my approach here. And you see the whole thing with the surfaces here. So I am going to kind of change surfaces here. Try to land it on this one. And you see I'm kind of angling it. I can go about 5 rings here. I really don't use a ton of curl, but I might do this. And again, I really need to make sure I hit the right surface. So if I'm aiming on the fairway, I need to make sure it hits the fairway. And it did. And I just used too much backspin. So that's something, I noticed I was kind of doing that. I didn't really have enough time to correct it. Because I wanted to use full backspin, right? But here's the problem. It was downwind on that. on the shot that I was about to hit. So since it was downwind, I could tell that if I hit it on that mid surface, you see right there, it's going to be too long. And here's the problem. When you play a downwind shot and do the adjustment like this guy's about to, he's about to do it, right? If he hits that surface, it's going to be even longer than what it's showing. So what he really needs is a fairway bounce, which he got, but as you're seeing, it bounces in the bunker. So got a little fortunate there, but like I said, next time around, I would know, downwind, put it on the fairway, and just use less backspin. So again, but as challenging as these holes are, this makes holes like that, possible to win just, on an okay shot. I hit an okay shot and it can still win, even if it's a replays. It's because there's so many other bad shots out there that they'd have to pull only the best replays. And I don't think they do that. I think statistically speaking, they pull a just kind of random replay. But here's the thing, a lot of the replays at my trophy counts, the guys are just going to be very precise, especially on the easy holes. So let's go back to one of the easier holes that we just played. Like, how many random replays are going to be, really far from the hole on an easy wind? There's not going to be very many. So, all right, so this is good. I'll get a little bit of redemption on this hole. Again, I'm just going to not do anything too crazy here. I'm going to pull back a little bit, and I'm going to curl it because I know I can. So you're seeing about half curl. You're seeing not a ton of top spin to get it through the fairway. I'm okay with what I just did there. I only want it just to the corner there. So the fact that it, trickled in the rough and didn't keep rolling, it's not a big deal to me. I would say, if you're going to curl it, don't curl it any more than I just did. But another thing that you can do is you can actually, it's more of an advanced shot, but I'm not going to hit it in this tutorial, is I'll do like a full curl and bounce it over the bunker and get up more towards, up through here. And I'll do that sometimes. All right, so let's see here. So this is going to be a little redemption on this hole. The most popular shot is going at it this way, so I'm going to go at it this way too. I like hitting a backspin shot, and you're seeing I usually don't put topspin on it, but here I am because it's straight into the wind. And again, like I just said before, well, first off, I'm on min club, which changed the way that I play this. I might go 3 rings here, just a shade over 3 rings, and just ever so slightly cheat it back to the left. Because, shot correction, it's going to, and the only reason that I added just a touch of topspin, because I usually don't do that, is because that it was into the wind. And you're seeing this hole is just, brutal as is. It is so hard to get this one online and actually, taking the right bounces. It can be very, very tricky. Very, very tricky hole. And not tricky in the sense that, you're going to miss your birdie. Like, I'm not going to miss my birdie on this time. I'm barely ever going to miss my birdie on this hole. But just, you can see the way that the fairway is there. The fairway has, a variety of 30 different ways it can bounce back there. That's one of the reasons that I don't even like playing that shot. But so many guys playing it. I feel like it's a very safe shot. I mean, you see, worst case scenario, you're going to be where I am. Is this bad? No. It'll get us to the shootout. Every time it'll get us to the shootout. So, don't feel like too intimidated by this hole. Like, it's a big deal if you blow it past. It's a very tricky hole to actually get a good looking shot on. It's very tricky. You know, I can count on my fingers how many times I've played this exceptionally well. So, you know, it's just one of those things that the fairway, you'll think you have it down, and then the next time you'll play your rings, and you'll be off by 3 yards right, and you're just like, well, what the hell? Now, of course, so we get downwind again. Not as big of a deal this time. I cannot believe this guy's going at it from this angle. So he's not going to be able to stop it if he actually hits this shot. So I'm really hoping he reconsiders. Doesn't look like he's going to. So he's going to be a little deep. And this should be, you know, a pretty easy win for me. Especially after, you know, seeing my mistake last time. I'm not going to be 6 yards again. Especially with less wind. It would have had to been at least an 8 for me to make a mistake like that again. So, you know, the shot is for you to hit over here. Put all your backspin on. And you see it's stopping short of the hole. Well, that's fine. That's what we want. And like I said, you know, I'm not going to get super aggressive with how much I pull this back here. I'm only going to go 2.5 rings here. Because I have a lot of margin of error to win here. I need very little to beat this guy. So I'm going to keep that in mind and not do anything stupid. I am going to do my curl. I like having it come back into the right. Wow, I almost hit the rough there. Wait, are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. That makes no sense as to why that didn't go downwind. That almost hit the rough. It might have even hit the rough. That makes no sense. So you're really seeing me butcher that hole for whatever reason. Who knows why. It is so easy with Guardian. Trust me. Just do what I'm doing, but not what I'm doing. It is so easy to play that shot. It's crazy. I'm just not into the groove of it on that hole yet, apparently. You know, it's so funny because, you know, I had 3 rings of error there. I could have been 3 yards over that fairway, and I'm still going for the shot that's right on the edge because there's no reason it should have landed short like that. That's why I was playing like that. There's no reason. I only had 2 yards there. I only pulled back 2 yards. That's it. So why is a 3 win not being enough downwind? Doesn't make any sense. So, a little disappointing. I'm assuming I hit the rough, and that's why it was only 8 yards short, because there's no way if that would have hit the fairway that it would have stopped 8 yards short. There's no way. It's literally impossible. I'm telling you, there's no way, which means I hit the rough. So that's the only reason I lost that shootout. I hit the rough, but it was a fraction of a yard. And I don't even know, it makes no sense why it hit it. Makes absolutely no sense. But no big deal. You know, it's just one match. That's going to be what you're used to seeing. You know, you're going to see a lot of shots like that are 6 yards, and you're just, you know, eventually just going to be tearing it up. And you'll just win a lot of matches there. And again, I'm going to use more of my Pock 5 spin here and just try to brute force this one down here. And I was able to get perfect ball. I don't think I curled it too much, but also you have to worry about your bounce, and there I'm not going to have to worry about my bounce. This is going to be pretty good. No, it's just too deep. Oh, geez. So, you know, just not playing this tour and enough to keep up with things. Like, I didn't know that was going to be pounded over. I thought it was going to be, you know, it wasn't by much. It was probably, you know, 5 yards too long. And, you know, it just created all that extra momentum because of how fast it came into the green. If I would have just hit it 5 yards less. So, for example, I could have just backed off of the ball into the orange, and it would have been perfect. So keep that in mind. With that being said, though, I don't think I've been in the rough or sand at all in this video, so you know, I'm not really gonna sweat it, and I don't think you guys should either. You know, I still have a chance to win this outright. So one of the things that I'll do is I'll just half it. You know, try to figure out what half distance is, and then half that again. I'm at about 3 halves, which is about 7, maybe 7 per ring, somewhere in there. No, that's not right. What am I doing? I have no idea. Jeez, I'm not even gonna get this off. I just completely blanked on that shot. I don't even know what I was thinking. And I just completely just lost my train of thought mid thought, so I just beat it out. Whatever. We'll just go to the playoff and just forget about that. What I was basically just trying to say there is I think, you know, I was pulling it back 3 halves, which would have been, you know, maybe 10 per ring. I probably didn't even have to go a ring there. Less than a ring for that shot correction. But for whatever reason, I was totally brain farting, and for some reason I was lining it up on the hole when I was supposed to line it up halfway to the hole. So, no big deal. We're going to get to this one, and I'm going to make my the necessary adjustments, and do this hole a little bit better this time. And again, you're seeing, you know, this guy, he's using the backspin of this club. I think it's a very smart thing to do here. And I think, what did I do last time? I did about 1 ring per. Yeah. So again, well, in fact, I can shot copy a little bit because this guy just went, what, 5 rings? I'm assuming he's going to be a little bit short. I don't think he did enough, in my opinion. So, you know, you see a shot like this, and, you know, I could just basically shot copy him. I could do his same spin and just do an extra ring on top of what he did. So last time you saw me go full backspin. This time you're not going to see me go full backspin because it's into the wind. So the biggest thing you're seeing is, look, I'm putting it, first off, I'm putting the shot behind it and to the left. Because I know that the shot correction is going to, you know, take it back. And then I'm going to go, you know, 5-6 yards here, or 5-6 rings, about 6 rings. And then I'm going to curl it as well on top, because I know that the shot correction is going to push my ball if I don't do this. And you're seeing it, it's already still on the right of the hole. So it still wasn't enough. And you saw what I did there. So that's one of the best examples of wind correction that we've seen on this tour so far. Is you saw me put it behind the hole. I started behind the hole, right? And to the left. I still curled it on top of it, back behind the hole. Plus, on top of that, you know, I overcorrected because it's downwind. So I went, say, 6 rings. And it was pretty spot on. And you saw where I had it, I was probably 2 yards behind the hole. So let's think about this. That 6 wind, it brought the ball back an extra 2 rings because of the shot correction. Plus, you got to see how much it pushed it to the left, too. Or to the right. And I countered it with left. So you saw me do quite a bit of curl, and it still wasn't quite enough. So just think about that when you're doing your corrections here. Because I feel like that's really going to help you when you're thinking about things and trying to get stuff online. Whoops, I don't think I meant to do that. I meant to do this. Okay, I'm right at the hour point. That's what I wanted to see. And we haven't got to this hole yet. I'm really glad that we got to it, because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about this, well, this is kind of, it can end up being like a make or break for me, because sometimes my correction's just online and it'll hit the pin. But So what I do for this hole 90% of the time is I go for the dunk. But first things first, you got to take care of business. You have to hit it down where, Sonny just did here. You got to get it there. If you don't get it to there, you don't get it to short iron. So that's step one. I got to get it to short iron. So let's think about this. I got navigator on. I got 4 topspin. I got to get aggressive with my aim. I think 4 topspin might be too much. I'm going to back off a little bit. So I'm looking off the right of my bullseye, and I'm making sure that, 5, 7 rings that I have to clear on the right there. And then I'm going to stack on top of that another 2.5. Now what you're going to see me do here is I'm going to do more of my full curl. See, you probably saw the screen rotate. But I did it just for the curl. Make sure I get it over here. I'm actually up by the green, so I'm not even going to need to go for the dunk here. So on downwind like this, you're seeing I'm able to get it way down there for an easy pitch. And one of the things you want to note is what I did was probably the minimum that I could have went. I would have had to go just a tad bit more than that. But like I said, if I was where she was, I would go for the dunk with my claw on a full backspin. Because I think it's easier than trying to hold it out off the fairway or fringe. So, just something to consider. If I was in the fairway back where they were, which, I got lucky that it was downwind, because under normal circumstances, I'd be where they are. But under these circumstances, I'm good. And I just want to make sure that, it's smooth where I'm putting it. And it is. So you want to make sure it's smooth on the fairway where you are. And you see I'm not really playing this wind at all. It's not going to need it. If you see the hill that I'm hitting it up, I'm not really adding any. It's not going to be in the air very long because it's so close to the ground the whole time. And I just missed my perfect ball. It's going to cost me the hole out. So as you see, it came up way short too. It has nothing to do with anything that I did wrong in terms of my setup. When you shank it, it ever so slightly lands shorter than where you were aiming, even if it's a fraction of a yard, 0.3 of a yard. But that 0.3 of a yard is enough to make it come up short like that. So it wasn't going to go in if I shanked it left or right anyway. So best thing there was, I had to hit perfect ball. Had I hit perfect ball, it would have ran up there right into the hole. And I'm glad that we hit this hole again. I finally get my redemption to actually do this right for once. Be my first time all day playing this right. This is a bit of a risky shot with sniper. If you do have sniper, play the rough shot in front of where she's aiming, she or he. And I never really knew if that Sonny was. I feel like that's just like he's using his wife's Facebook or something. I think it's a dude, but I don't know. So this is going to be the first time that I play this right. Now, whether or not I can come within 4.5, that'll be. We'll figure that out after I hit here. But assuming I can. But this is going to be the one time where you see I'm not quite using full backspin here because it really doesn't need it. I'm making sure that it's still getting to the hole, which is here. Since it's not downwind, I'm not using full backspin. I just want to show you that I'm going to do 3 rings. Just a shade inside 3 rings. I want to see what that changes in terms of trajectory, and not much, but I am going to utilize that curl. Most importantly, because of the fact that it's a right to left wind. So the curl's really going to help it get over towards the hole. And you see what I did is over curl it just ever so slightly And again, I could tinker around with that. It came up just a tad bit short too, but 99% of the time, especially once I get this hole figured out, Guardian over Sniper all day long. All day long. So that's one of the biggest reasons is that hole. There's one other one. That I think it's like a no-brainer. We've really played two of them. I think, you know, I think you can play good shots with the Sniper on the other one that you just saw us play right before that. But I think having that extra Guardian spin for downwind on that hole can be crucial on that other one. Not the one that we just played, but the one before that. But both of those holes in general, Guardian to me has the advantage for that backspin, especially down to the downwind. And the only other one, it's the one that you saw us play. It was the one with the bunker in the face. I think Guardian's the best club for that too. And it's, you know, more times than not, it's a backspin shot. But what you saw me do in my shot was where it was hitting that face, I used too much backspin. So you want to just take off just a touch. You know, I might use 7.5 bars, for example. So I'll remember that for next time, and we will regroup. But just keep all this in mind. I don't think I made this pitch earlier, but I did show you the pitch. So maybe for this next time, I would do the other approach that I think you should be familiarized with. And you see when I go max power here, it brings the bunker into play. So one of the things that I want to note to you, and first off, I'm going to use my POC 5 spin again, just so you know. So first off, you know, the bullseye is basically, you know, 8 miles per... So I'm playing off the right of my bullseye. For my aim, I'm going to do my hook. But since the bullseye is roughly, you know, 7.5 mile per hour to the right of the rough here, I'm only going to put it here, and then I'm going to stack it on top of there, and then I'm going to go over another half ring. And again, I'm going to do kind of the same setup, but what you're going to see me do is I'm going to lay off of it. Notice how I'm pulling back on the power? What's that do? It takes the bunker 100% out of play. So that's why I do it. No matter what, the ball's going to now land short of the fairway. And I like that hook because it really curls back nicely into the center. What you see a lot of guys do is, you kind of saw the other guy do it, is, you know, he started going towards that back rough. Notice where my ball is, not even close to the rough. And that's one of the biggest reasons. There's so many hook shots in this. Thor's hammer should not even be a thought. Extra mile should not even be a thought. This is apocalypse course right here. No question. There's no other club that should even be considered as an option. There's so many curl holes here. Most of them being like, you know, par 4s, to where you can just, you know, take advantage of all these shots. And I highly recommend, you know, you have an apocalypse and going for it. Now let me show you this other approach. I'm pretty sure you've probably already seen it before. Oh wow, I almost went in. But I'm assuming, you know, I'm playing replays, and for the most part, replays don't hold out. I think they specifically, you know, pick ones that don't. The exception being drivables, sometimes they will. But, okay, so let's see. Oh, I'm actually in claw. I'm not used to doing this with claw, so my approach is going to be a little bit different. Let me say if I was doing this with Saturn, I would use 4 bars of backspin. Here I'm only going to use 2.5. And where I like to put it, if you see where I'm kind of aiming, it's to the left of the hole, right? And it's over here towards the top. And that's kind of perfect. And, you know, I'm more towards max club, so I'm going to go about 2 rings here. And that'll be my adjustment. And like I said, with Saturn, I would typically land it about the same spot right on that slope, but I would do it with 4 backspin. Here I'm only using 2.5. I'm just bringing it back down towards the hole. And what does this mean? This means I need to be just slightly more left of where I just was. So that means if you saw where I just aimed, which was still to the left of the hole, it wasn't quite left enough. It needed to be just a little bit more. But you have to keep in mind that once you go left enough, it's quite possible that you're going to go too left. So that's why I'm very, cautious about how much I adjust. And again, next time, I'd only slightly come in from that. You don't want to get too carried away with how much, because it's hard to find that groove. But if you hit it up the hill high enough, it comes back and it makes it back to the hole. It can go in. And this is a perfect spot to end on. We got another new hole, which is great. And I would just go ahead and end this video from here. I did want to talk about this hole, and I'm glad that it came up. So, same thing. This is another hole that I am a huge advocate of Guardian for. So you're going to see I'm going to play at about 7 rings, and I'm going to put that third hop just short of the hole. So you're seeing that. This is what? Into the wind? Yes. Slightly into the wind. Next thing, this is a downhill adjustment, just like the last one was. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and I'm going to go 5 full rings here because it needs it. So you're going to see me go 5 full rings. No real counter curl or anything. Great ball, probably not going to kill me. But it is probably going to be a little left. And it usually comes off that hill. Yeah. Man, that's really bad. That is really horrible. That's really as bad as I could have done that. So that's a little unfortunate. I'm assuming it is easily going to be beat by this guy. But I'm assuming, he's going to do the same approach. He's going to do the same thing that I just did. And like I just said before, you need to go about 1 per ring here because it's down to a lower elevation, and you're going to see he's probably going to do more or less the same. Here's the problem. I couldn't tell if mine was downwind or into the wind. I actually think it was downwind. So that's why, and that's one of those things that really bothers me because I couldn't tell if I was correcting if I was going back at the right arc there. And I think that has more to do with why my shot was as jacked up as it is. Like I said, this guy's probably easily going to beat it. Easily. This is a very easy Guardian shot. You can do a lot, but it brings hole-in-one into a great possibility. And you're seeing kind of this guy do that right there. Right down towards the hole. When I'm playing these replays, I have to execute like that too. If I don't put it, 1.2 or closer, I'm just going to lose the shootout. No question, because it's probably the easiest hole in this tour. So it's unfortunate that you saw me do it the bad way, but you saw I was using pretty much the same method he was. More so than anything, I feel like I got kind of bad luck there because I couldn't tell if it was downwind or into the wind. And those winds are really confusing for me because you have to be thinking about the shot correction that I keep in, like I told you. And when you're thinking about shot correction, you can't tell if it's downwind or into the wind. Like you want to be adding a little bit extra or taking off a little bit extra. And if you can't tell if you should be adding or taking off a little bit extra, then it really creates a larger margin of error. And, that's one of those rare wins because I couldn't tell, but that's like the only time in a lot of my videos that I couldn't tell. So it was a really rare occurrence. And, let's say hypothetically, the wind was, more of an angled wind. I might do that shot correction. It just depends on the way that it's pointed. So, for example, if that would have been a right to left wind on that hole, I would have done my shot correction with either curl or more side spin. I would have maybe gone full side spin and really just overemphasize that. And here, the one thing I want to note here is I'm not sure you can get to that second fairway here. That is very close. It is very, very close. So what you're going to see me do here is I'm going to pull off Navigator, and I'm going to do my Epoch 5 spin, and I'm going to do the skip shot. So when I'm doing the skip shot, I need to, factor in 5 rings. So I'll go 5 rings here, which is full club. I'll go just a little bit hair right of that, and then curl it back left. And what the curl left does is it basically brings it back to the center of the fairway here, as opposed to, well, that wasn't even enough. Jesus. It was supposed to bring it back to the center of the fairway. Now, I probably should have checked my spin, because I might have had side spin on that too. Not the end of the world to be where I am, but it's kind of an unfortunate mistake. But keep in mind what I just did with the curl back to try to bring it back towards the fairway. Something, you should be doing when you do the skip shot there. Now, I might have had right spin on that by accident. And it might have had something to do with when I was thinking about going for the long fairway. And then maybe I never took it off, and that's why I missed right. So when you're doing the skip shot, you want to move your wind to the left. You want to pull it to the left the whole way. And you still want to do full top spin on it. But not the end of the world. Still holdable from here, too. That's another thing to consider. So first I want to say, I'm going to try to skip that mound there. And that's one of the things that I think you guys should be trying too. So if I play max at about 1.8, for example, here's 3.6. I'm kind of coming up from there. Maybe I'll play 2.7 here per ring. 2.7 per ring is going to be spot on right about 3 rings. Now, before I start adjusting, I want to move it ever so slightly to the left of the hole. Now, what is this going to do is it's going to kind of account for some of that shot correction that I've been discussing. You're seeing I'm going 3 rings here. I'm kind of running out of time, but I was able to get it off. Let's see if I miss this to the... missed it to the left. So that's right where I kind of started it at, which means my 3 rings was just a slight bit of an overcorrection. Just ever so slightly. It was probably just a little touch inside that, and it would have been perfect. Because there's no question that there was shot correction there, because it was angled to the right. So you always want to be thinking about that when you're playing your wins. You either have to, do one of 2 things, which it looks like I overcorrected. That's one of the things that you can do. Because since it was so downwind, it should have came in at a much higher rate if I would have played the right amount of wind. What you saw is it was still coming in slow. That means I overcorrected. And then I tried to counter it just ever so slightly. I didn't try to get too carried away with my counter. And it just wasn't quite right. So there's 2 approaches on this hole here. One of them is I like to play it up here with a full backspin Guardian. It's a little bit risky, but with the fact that I only have Saturn on, it's something that I'm going to have to go for. And the biggest thing to keep in mind here when doing this, I got to make sure I hit the green, unfortunately. So I need to go at least 6 rings here. I need to be very cautious when doing this. So you see me going, 6, 7 rings. I need to make sure that it hits the green. If not, it's an automatic loss. So I hit the green. It's going to start coming back. And it's not going to be too terribly bad. So this is another hole that, I think Guardian can be very useful tool. Somebody coming in and beating 1.7 on this hole is going to be very rare. So that was a really high percentage shot. And like I said, you got to be just very careful. If you hit it too low on the green there, first off, it can't hit the fringe at all. You're done if that happens. But you also got to make sure that you hit it up. So you can only really do that shot that I just pulled off there. And if you want to see more on that, I did some B-52s in Tour 10. So if you want to check out that video, I played it maybe once or twice on Tour 10, this exact same hole. But this is a completely different approach. Into the wind, I highly recommend that Guardian shot. You know, 2 yards is going to be extremely hard to beat on Tour 8. It's going to be extremely hard to beat. So, just something to consider. You know, for the most part, you know, did some good things here. I did make a couple mistakes. You know, it's bound to happen, especially, you know, I don't play Tour 8. I'm not grinding Tour 8. What I suggest, if you are grinding Tour 8, you know, to play more games. You get 50 games in, think about the mistakes you make, and remember for next time. You're going to say, oh, I went 6 rings. I mean, even if you have to write these down for every hole, I think that's a good idea. So I don't necessarily need to do that. Now, for long-term memory, I should be doing that. But if I'm just grinding Tour 8 for the next week or whatever, you know, my short-term memory is good enough that I'm going to remember, you know, for the most part. You know, it won't be spot on, but I'll remember and be able to, you know, make corrections on some of the mistakes that I made here. It's over a week, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. I mean, I haven't played Tour 8 like this in forever, other than when I just had to remax up. But I did it with a different bag. I didn't even put Guardian in because, you know, I was just like, you know, I'm just going to hole out a bunch of times and basically just try to eliminate shootouts. And I was just beating my Epoch 7 down there as far as possible. But, you know, you guys don't all have the luxury of doing that. So I wanted to, you know, give yourself an Epoch 5 here, which I feel like a lot of guys have, not everybody. So if you have a Epoch 4, you're going to lose about 6 yards. On top of that, I think you might lose just a touch of topspin too. You may or may not. I think you definitely lose a little bit of accuracy on a Epoch 4. But yeah, you're going to lose about 6 yards of power. So you could do everything that I just did, but with 6 yards less if you have a Epoch 4. I tried to emulate a Epoch 5 for this video because I think, you know, a lot of you coming up, and at least it's something to strive for too. If you're grinding this tour with a Epoch 5 or even a Epoch 4 if you have to, the only thing that's going to change, I think you might lose a little accuracy and you lose about 6 yards. Something definitely worth overcoming. And you see, this tour can be very manageable, especially once I started to get those shootouts down. I think Guardian, you know, is the best way. You saw a lot of guys in my videos, a lot of the replays, hit some pretty quality Guardian shots. So, you know, this is the one tour that I just want to reiterate, Guardian for the win. This is the one tour that I think Guardian is the club. Like, no question. Whereas all the other, I can make an argument for Sniper everywhere else. But I'm not saying you can't win with Sniper, because you can. Because on a lot of those shots, there's still alternate approach with Sniper. Or, you know, if you have a long iron, if you're using Goliath, especially for that last shootout, you can get bailed out with Goliath in those in-between situations. You can definitely still win with Sniper, for sure. But when I look at the shootouts at whole, as collectively, all those shootout holes, Guardian is just money on all of them. There's a money shot that'll just be, you know, a yard or two on every single one of those. All you got to do is just get a little honed in, you know, make a mistake here and there, that's fine. But be thinking about, you know, that wind correction. Whether something's pointed right or left impacts the way that you think about the shot. So if something's pointed right and you know there's slope to the right, for example, well, then you might not need to, you know, worry too much because, you know, it'll just kind of naturally take the slope anyway. So it might not be that big a deal, just do a little overcorrection. But for the example where, you know, it might be the reverse, you might want to go like the, you know, the counter method where you just try to straighten out the wind and not have too much of that, you know, side wind come into play. So just something to consider, keep in mind. Hopefully you find this video, you know, useful, and hopefully you guys can figure out Tour 8 and Tour 9, of course, Tour 10, and just keep moving forward until you get to where you want to be in this game for whatever you want to use it for. So just keep grinding, and I'm sure you're going to be able to figure it out. So if you have any other comments or questions, feel free to list it on the video. I'll do the best that I can to get back to it. If you haven't subscribed already, feel free to. And good luck.